I don't know what is about the Southern 500 and the playoffs, but playoff drivers just fall apart. Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Jett. Welcome back to some of MDK Racing Victory Stop. What a Southern 500. Wow, we got lots to talk about. A lot of stuff happened. Let's go over it. I'm pretty sure 9 or 10 playoff drivers had issues, whether it was mechanical or driver error. They had some type of problem, but wow, playoff drivers just fell apart in this race. And I don't know what is it, but ever since the Southern 500 was this opening round of the playoffs, I think since 2020, something about playoff drivers just, again, like I said, crumbling, just making mistakes, getting caught up in wrecks, just something about it's just like, how? Now the thing is, the first part of the Southern 500 was actually quite tame. Now Christopher Bell led the first part of the race up until the first round of green flag pit stops when he got the Ty Gibbs pit crew, which supposedly was the third fastest pit crew that entire season. Yet tonight they didn't act like it. They made mistake after mistake, had a bad pit stop, took him basically out of contention for the race because that was the last time we really saw Christopher Bell anywhere up front. Denny Hamlin took over. Hamlin led the rest of the way to win stage 1. However, there were some playoff drivers that had issues. Christopher Bell later on in that stage smacked the wall really hard. I believe bent a toe link on the rear end of his car. And then coming to the finish of stage 1, Bubba Wallace and Joe Logano made contact. Bubba tried to make a move that wasn't really necessary, was pushing it too hard, ends up spinning himself out, and Logano went into the wall, and I believe it also damaged the toe link on his number 22 car, and also Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had a speeding penalty. So already that's 4 playoff drivers in one stage already having some form of problem. Now, even though Hamlin did win the stage, and like I said, he led from that point on to win the stage, it wasn't like he had some type of competition. He did, and that was from his driver, Tyler Reddick. He had a fast car. I believe started 3rd in this race. After that moment with Bell and Hamlin was out in front, it became Hamlin and Reddick. Reddick took the lead, but very quickly on, people knew that Hamlin had the faster car, took the lead right back from Reddick with ease. And even though Hamlin did win the stage, Reddick was quickly viewed as a race-winning contender as long as he kept his nose clean. Some drivers, on the other hand, didn't follow that memo. Then on lap 155 in stage 2, another playoff driver, and Mark Truex Jr., who had a real big lead, was a regular season champion. He didn't really have to do much. Ends up making a mistake. I should say his pit crew ends up making a mistake. He had to come back on the pit road for a loose wheel, and it took him to right near the very end to get back into the free pass position. So Truex night was just derailed from that loose wheel moment. We then even had the racetrack go lights out. 7 minutes, the race was red flag due to darkness in turns 3 and 4. Drivers were going into the wall, drivers couldn't see. Obviously, from a safety perspective, you had to throw the red flag and they were able to get that settled in. But this race had everything. Even the race was getting too hot, the lights couldn't take it. But one thing that remained the same was that 11 car being dominant, that clean air, super OP. He would go on to win stage 2. Then we started to see some shifting in momentum. Now Hamlin, Reddick, Byron, those drivers up front that pitted on lap 217 stayed out for stage 3. Meanwhile, some of the other drivers like Kevin Harvick pitted later on lap 225 to gain some momentum with fresher tires. And boy was Harvick flying, even though I said this in my playoff predictions, I didn't think Harvick would make it to the round of 12 based off of the car, not based off of talent, but he made that 4 car extremely stout, drove his way up towards the field, and he got into the top 5 very quickly on. Even though track position was extremely OP, you cannot defeat the fact that he had those 4 fresh tires, extremely key at a track like Darlington, drove his way up towards the front, and was in contention to become the race leader and have a shot at winning this race, it seemed. You then had more issues with Tyler Reddick and Kyle Larson both having transmission issues with their cars popping out of gear, going into neutral. So again, all car drivers had all sorts of problems. More problems than ensued for Denny Hamlin himself. With around 100 or so laps to go, we had another round of green flag pit stops. Reddick and Hamlin pit. Reddick comes out in front of Hamlin. Hamlin has to do another pit stop due to, as he said, was a loose wheel. But the thing is that Hamlin said it was a loose wheel. The team, on the other hand, says that there was nothing that indicated a loose wheel, but Hamlin said very confidently, it's a loose wheel. So I'm gonna go with Hamlin. He's a driver. He can feel it. So I'm going to side with Hamlin, but it was weird that they couldn't determine what exactly was the problem. But that was a very, very critical error. Hamlin will not be in contention for the race win. Took him out of contention because this was a team that just didn't need to make any mistakes. Just don't make any mistakes. Just have a solid pit stop. And it ended up going down the drain. So with Hamlin out of the picture, Reddick was out in front. But again, we talked about Kevin Harvick in that 4 car. He was charging. He just ate away at Reddick's lead with help from Ryan Newman. Remember, Ryan Newman is in the race. And if anyone knows Ryan Newman, it doesn't matter if he's racing for the lead or if he's 4 laps down, he will make your life a living hell to pass you. And he did that with Tyler Reddick. They even had a moment where the two made contact, banging doors side by side. Newman did not let Reddick by with ease. And of course, Harvick ate away at Reddick's lead. But then something unusual happened. Right as Harvick was on the bumper of Reddick, Harvick decides to come onto pit road. Then all of a sudden, you see Ryan Newman nearly plow into the back end of Reddick. He spins, slides, brings out the caution. Caution lights are on, meaning pit road is closed. Kevin Harvick is on pit road and he pits, meaning Harvick gets a penalty, gets sent to the tail end of the longest line. His day is for the race win is done. Now, at first, I thought that was Newman. I thought that was Newman getting payback at Reddick. But when you look at it, Reddick just jammed on the brakes. And I, for the life of me, cannot figure it out because you could make this the statement that, okay, maybe Reddick was trying to get on the same pit road at the same time as Harvick. 1 lap of fresh tires is critical, is massive at Darlington. But you look at it, Reddick was nowhere near. He was way past the commitment line. There was no way he was going to make it. So the question is why did he jam on the brakes? I saw some people, specifically Slapshoes, said, could it be Reddick playing a 4D chess game because he knew Harvick had a fast car? So let me jam on the brakes, cause a caution, close pit road, and force Harvick to get a penalty. But, which, I mean, I don't believe it for a second, but if I'm just imagining if that actually did happen, that is genius. But obviously, no way Reddick was thinking like that. There's no way. But I gotta say, for the Ford team, why would you pit him? It made no sense. We have seen drivers time and time again, when they come onto pit road, when pit road's closed, you just drive through. Just drive through pit road. Why they decided to pit Harvick, like actually change tires and all that, made no sense. I'm not saying that if they were to drive through pit road, maybe they would have had a good shot at winning. Maybe they still would have had a chance of winning. I don't know. But definitely didn't help their chances by actually getting onto pit road and actually doing the stop for the 4 car. And now you just took yourself out of contention. It was such a self-inflicted mistake that it clearly could have been avoided. But yeah, that wreck was one of those moments that changed the dynamic of the race because Harvick was a clear race-winning car and ends up taking himself out of contention. And then we started to see just chaos left, right, and center. After that, we had a restart. We saw a lot of jostling for position. Then Alex Bowman just throws a very dumb block. He blocks Daniel Suarez once. Suarez tries to come up top. Bowman blocks him again and takes him and the 99 car out of the race. Now, there was a bit of a heated tension because Suarez after the race said, I hope I don't see him in the next 15 or so minutes, because basically entailing that he wanted to hurt him. And Bowman saying that, well, the 99 always races like that around me, so it is what it is. I don't know. It's just 2 wrongs don't make a right. I mean, come on, you just took yourself out of contention. I think both didn't have the best night, but y'all clearly didn't help yourselves by performing 2 very stupid blocks. There was no need for that. Truex around that time got the free pass after that moment. Then on 35 laps ago, another very critical moment involving 4 playoff drivers. Kyle Busch runs up the track and pinches Todd Gilliland, sending him into the wall. Gilliland then spins on the front stretch, collecting Denny Hamlin, who is then ran into from behind by Michael McDowell. Those 2 go up the racetrack and collect Christopher Bell in the process. So it was kind of like a domino effect, just wrong place at the wrong time. And just so happened, all of them involved playoff drivers. So Hamlin went from a guy that was, you would think, easily advanced to the round of 12, to getting sent to the back because of a loose wheel and having to recover, to then getting caught up in the crash. Christopher Bell just had a horrible night and sealed it off with that. Michael McDowell, beside his strong qualifying result, was non-existent. And yeah, it was just tough break for those drivers. And then on the final restart, we got to see two of the best drivers go at it between Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick. We know how those two are. Tracks like Darlington, you go right up against the wall, and those two put on a show. You even had later on Christopher Bell, or Chris Busch, I should say, and William Byron get into the mix a little bit. But those two, even though they weren't exchanging positions, they were driving the wheels off of those cars. Even both of them were bouncing off the wall multiple times. But unfortunately with this next gen car, even though it was entertaining, it was annoying because all you had to do was just get in front of those tire marks and you were gold. We need to get rid of that diffuser and make some changes with the next gen car because it is clearly hurting the racing product. This race was great, but it would have been a lot better without that dirty air. But regardless, Kyle Larson was able to hold off Tyler Reddick and win at Darlington. Finally, he wins at Darlington after finishing second, I think 3 or 4 times for his third win of 2023, his 22nd Career Cup Series win, the 299th career victory for Hendrick Motorsports. But most importantly, that 5 team is going to have a locked-in ticket into the round of 12. Here's a look at the race results. Kyle Larson wins, Reddick in second, Buescher third, William Byron fourth, Ross Chastain 5th place finish. But I should say, the result doesn't tell the full story because that one team was horrible the entire race. They were having an average running position of, I believe, outside the top 20. Somehow they recovered for a top 5 run. Great job by the one team. 6th place for the 6 car, Brad Keselowski. Bubba Wallace recovered from that spin, was able to make some ground with taking advantage of pit strategy, comes home with the top 10 finish, something that they definitely needed to work their way up inside the top 12. Chase Elliott, the highest finishing non-playoff driver in 8th, Ryan Blaney 9th, and Eric Jones, a strong one for that 43 team in the 10th position. Kyle Busch and Joey Logano 11th and 12th. AJ Allmendinger, Eric Almirola, Chase Briscoe, Ricky Stanton Jr., Carson Hocevar. What a job for that driver in the 42 car. Comes in just his second Cup Series start at a very difficult racetrack like Darlington. Kept his nose clean, wasn't really involved in any sort of drama, just ran his race. And comes home with a top 20 finish. Great run for that 42 car. Martin Truex Jr. in 18th, Kevin Harvick 19th, and Austin Dillon the top 20. Then you got some notables like Ty Gibbs 21st, Christopher Bell 23rd. Denny Hamlin ends up with 25th. Ryan Preece in his return following that hellacious crash at Daytona in 28th. Austin Cindric was involved in a crash with, I believe, Ty Gibbs, so he finished 31st. Then you see Michael McDowell 32nd, Alex Bowman, Daniel Suarez, Harrison Burton, and BJ McLeod rounds out the field. Now let's take a look at the playoff grid following Darlington heading into Kansas. Kyle Larson can breathe easily for the next 2 weeks. His name colored in green. He's locked in. William Byron plus 45. Tyler Reddick plus 30. Buescher and Hamlin tied at plus 27. Truex falls to plus 25. Now 6th on the grid. Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski plus 20 and plus 18 respectively. Ryan Blaney plus 9. Chastain plus 13. Logano remains at 11th plus 3. Christopher Bell now falls to the final playoff spot to advance, just 1 point ahead of Bubba Wallace, who moves up to 13th, the first one now out. Kevin Harvick -2, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. -4, and Michael McDowell, he has a tough hill to climb, now -19. My thoughts on this race, again, I think I pretty much explained it. It was a great race. I loved it. And man, just something about the Southern 500 to kick off the playoffs. It's a perfect way to start the playoffs. The longest, one of the most grueling races of the season to kick off the playoffs. I mean, man, ever since I think 2020, when it kicked off the playoffs, the Southern 500 has just been a gem. Back after back after back, banger, banger, banger. That dirty air, still an issue. We saw in this race, it was still a big time issue. Track position, it was godlike out there, so that's something we still need to fix with this next gen car. Talk about some of the drivers. I mean, again, I said this in my playoff predictions. One thing that you cannot do is make mistakes, and that's what we saw a lot of drivers do. The 11 crew mistake, the 20 crew mistakes, and Bell himself. Just you cannot make these mistakes when you're trying to contend for a championship. And now drivers that we thought were clearly, oh, for sure, now they don't have that bit of a buffer. Even a guy like Martin Truex Jr., we thought, no worries, he'll make it. Now he's still in. He still has a comfortable lead, but that bubble is a lot smaller than what it was before Darlington. So we had to, you talk about that. Drivers just, you cannot make mistakes. And we saw some drivers take advantage of those mistakes. And one of them was Bubba Wallace, even though he did make a mistake himself, took advantage of the pit strategy, took advantage of drivers having issues, and ended up with the 7th place finish. You look at a guy that was able to rebound, like a Ross Chastain, that was going to be out of the playoffs after Darlington, recovered for an incredible 5th place run. Lots of moving changes. It's going to be very, very fun to see what happens next weekend at Kansas. If it's anything like what we saw in the first Kansas race, it is going to be one hell of a show to watch, and I cannot wait for it. Kyle Larson, man, that 5 team. I mean, Larson, we know how good Larson is. Larson is a fantastic driver. Finally, it's surprised. I was under the assumption that he had already won the Southern 500. That's how dominant he has been at this track. That's how close he has been at this track. But finally, to get the job done, well deserved for that 5 team. He's going to have a ton of momentum heading into the next 2 races in the round of 16. So, yeah, going to be fun to watch. But overall, I give this race an 8 out of 10. Great, but obviously there are some things we need to work out with this next gen car. But I thought it was a great race. What are your thoughts of this other 500? Let me know in the comment section down below. Did you like it? Did you not? Until next time, my name is Jett from MDK. Congratulations to Kyle Larson, your winner at Darlington.